Found out my girlfriend deliberately ended her pregnancy just to get attention and lied to everyone about having a miscarriage. So I left her. Ashley and I had been together for 2 years when she told me she was pregnant. I was terrified but happy. I was 26, working at a warehouse, pulling overtime every week to save up for a place of our own. When she showed me the test, I hugged her and said, "We're going to figure this out." She smiled and said, "I know." We told our families. My mom cried. Her mom started planning a baby shower before we even had an ultrasound. I started picking up extra shifts. I was doing 60-hour weeks trying to stack money for a crib, a car seat, diapers, all of it. Ashley was 9 weeks along when she called me at work sobbing. She said she was bleeding and that she thought she lost the baby. I left in the middle of a shift and drove to her apartment. She was on the couch wrapped in a blanket shaking. I held her and told her it wasn't her fault. I called her mom. I called my mom. Everyone came over. Her mom stayed the night. My mom dropped off food for a week. Ashley's friends started a meal train. Her coworkers sent flowers. People were sending her messages every day telling her how sorry they were. I grieved hard. I'd already been talking to that kid in my head. I'd been thinking about names, about teaching him to ride a bike, about what kind of dad I wanted to be. I didn't eat right for weeks. I lost 12 pounds. I couldn't sleep. Ashley seemed to recover fast, faster than I expected. Within 2 weeks, she was going out with friends again, posting on social media, laughing like nothing happened. I told myself everyone grieves differently, and I shouldn't judge. Then the attention started to slow down. People stopped checking in. The texts slowed. The flowers stopped coming. And Ashley got upset about it. She told me, "Nobody even asks how I'm doing anymore. It's like they forgot." I said, "People move on. They still care." She said, "They don't. Nobody cares unless you're in the middle of something tragic." That comment sat wrong with me, but I let it go. A month later, I was at her apartment and her phone buzzed on the counter. She was in the shower. I wasn't snooping. The message was right there on the lock screen. It was from her friend Jess. It said, "I still can't believe you actually went through with it. You're stronger than me." I read it 3 times. I picked up the phone and waited for her to come out. She walked into the kitchen in a towel and saw me holding it. Her face dropped. I said, "What did you go through with?" She said, "What are you talking about?" I turned the screen toward her. She read it and said, "Jess is talking about something else." I said, "About what?" She said, "About a work thing." I said, "A work thing that required strength?" She said, "Give me my phone." I said, "Ashley, what did you do?" She sat down at the table and didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "I wasn't ready." I said, "Wasn't ready for what?" She said, "For a baby." I wasn't ready and I panicked. I said, "You told me you had a miscarriage." She said, "Because I didn't know how to tell you the truth." I felt my chest go hollow. I said, "You let me grieve a baby you chose to end?" She said, "I was scared. I didn't know what else to do." I said, "You could have talked to me. You could have told me you weren't ready. I would have listened. I would have gone with you. I would have held your hand." She started crying and said, "I knew you wanted it. I saw how excited you were. I couldn't take that from you." I said, "So instead you let me think I lost a child. You let me cry for weeks. You let my mom bring you food. You let everyone feel sorry for you." She said, "It got out of control." I said, "You started a meal train, Ashley. People cooked for you. Your coworkers sent you flowers. You were upset when the attention stopped." She didn't say anything. I said, "Was any of it real?" She said, "My feelings were real." I said, "Which feelings? The ones where you cried on the couch or the ones where you were mad nobody was checking on you anymore?" She said, "That's not fair." I said, "None of this is fair. I picked up extra shifts for 3 months. I was working 60 hours a week for a baby that you knew wasn't coming. I lost weight. I couldn't sleep. I talked to a therapist about the grief and she told me to give myself time to heal." "Heal from what? Something you made up?" She said, "I didn't make it up. It happened. I just didn't tell you how." I stood up. I said, "I'm done." She said, "Please don't do this. I love you." I said, "You watched me fall apart and didn't say a word. That's not love." I walked out. She called me 11 times that night. I didn't pick up. The next morning, she sent a long text saying she was sorry and that she'd go to therapy and that we could work through it. I didn't respond. Her mom called me a few days later asking me to reconsider. I said, "Ask her to tell you the real story first." She never called back.